Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskritya Naram Jaya Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Didye Nashtaprahe Pavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhakti Neshti. So continuing with the discussion of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita by Satsvarup Das Goswami, Volume 1, A Lifetime in Preparation, India 1896 to 1965, Chapter 10, This Momentous Hour of Need. So Prabhupada is in Chippiwada Temple, Delhi, and he's writing articles, writing Srimad Bhagavatam commentary, meeting people, preaching. So everything is going on. Bhaktivedanta Swami put his faith in Srimad Bhagavatam, giving up almost all of the kinds of missionary activity. And this had been the advice and example of his spiritual master and of Lord Chaitanya. They had not been interested in building costly temples or in creating many neophyte disciples. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had stressed preaching. Preaching meant books, and the best book was Srimad Bhagavatam. To write and publish the Bhagavatam for the enlightenment of the general populace was a real service to the Lord. That was Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's opinion. He had preferred publishing books to establishing temples, and he had specifically told his disciples to write books. It was the business of advanced and powered devotees to write books, publish them, and distribute them widely. A program to distribute transcendental literature everywhere, with even more expertise than the communists, would create a great positive effect on the people of Europe and America. And if Europeans and Americans turned to Krishna consciousness, then the rest of the world would follow. Bhaktivedanta Swami continued working alone in his room at Chippiwada, absorbed in thoughts of spreading the news of Krishna on a scale never before attempted. He sometimes wondered how Westerners, who were so far removed from the Vedic culture, could adopt it. They were meat-eaters, malechas. When one of his godbrothers had gone to England, the Marquis of Zetland, hearing the 4 prohibitions against sinful life, had laughed scornfully, impossible. But Srimad Bhagavatam spoke for itself. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So yes, when Krishna comes or sits in the heart of a devotee, then what material enjoyment he's going to ask for? Nothing. Although he was known as an English preacher, Bhaktivedanta Swami knew there were always faults in his presentation in that foreign language, and there was no editor to correct them. But such technical faults would not keep him from printing Srimad Bhagavatam. This idea was also presented in the opening chapters of the Bhagavatam. The literature, which is full with description of transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation of transcendental vocabulary, all meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization of the world. Such transcendental literatures, even though irregularly composed, is heard, sung, and accepted by the purified men who are thoroughly honest. So this is from one of the shlokas of Bhagavatam. So even if they are improperly composed or irregularly composed, means maybe the grammar is not correct or the language is not correct, but still they have the positive impact on the audience. That is the beauty of transcendental literature. Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote in his purport, we know that in our honest attempt for presenting this great literature, conveying transcendental message, for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general, as a matter of re-spiritualization of the world atmosphere, is fraught with many difficulties. Our capacity of presenting the matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail, and there may be so many literary discrepancies in spite of our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults, in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of the society will still accept this on account of its being an honest attempt for glorifying the Almighty Great, so much now badly needed. When there is fire in the house, the inmates of the house go out for help from the neighbors, who may be foreigners to such inmates, and yet without any adequate language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in adequate language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed in the matter of broadcasting this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the whole polluted atmosphere of the present-day world situation. After all, it's a technical science of spiritual values, and as such, we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there is the success. So yes, that is a success. And moreover, writing perfect English, of course, as Prabhupada said, it's not his mother tongue, it's a second language, a foreign language. But doesn't touch, if it doesn't touch the heart of the audience or the reader, then what's the use? And actually, Prabhupada translated or wrote his commentary only up till 10th canto, 13th chapter of Bhagavatam, and afterwards his American disciples completed it after Prabhupada left. But we can see the difference, although they had proper grasp of English and they were devotees, great knowledge, but there is still a huge difference in the purport between what Prabhupada wrote and what his disciples wrote. Certainly, Kali Yuga was such an emergency. The house was on fire. Honest men who could understand the need would welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it was now being presented with so many faulty and broken linguistic technicalities. Bhaktivedanta Swami was presenting Srimad Bhagavatam unchanged, with the greatest respect for Srila Vyasadeva. And that was his cardinal virtue. He was adding his own realizations, but not in a spirit of trying to surpass the previous spiritual masters. In the all-important matter of presenting the subject strictly in parampara, Bhaktivedanta Swami suffered from no faulty and broken technicalities. He knew that without the parampara, the Bhagavatam purports would have no value. Day and night he typed at his desk beneath the small adjustable light that dangled from the ceiling on its cord. He sat on a thin mat, his back to the large pyramid that stood oddly upright within the bare room. Pages accumulated and he kept them in the place with stones. Food and sleep, although necessary, was only incidental. He was completely convinced that his Srimad Bhagavatam would create a revolution in a misdirected civilization. Thus he translated each word and gave such each purport with exacting care and concentration. But it had to be done as quickly as possible. Because he's what, 64 or so right now. And he knew he doesn't have a whole lot of time. So he had to put in lots of time. And talking about the language, if it is faulty or some technical difficulties. Actually, it so happened in Delhi Srimad Bhagavatam class was to be given by His Grace Gopi Parandan Prabhu, who was one of the writers of Bhagavatam after Prabhupada left. He was in the team. So great scholar from, he had American body, but lived in Govardhan for a long time. So he was going to give the lecture. And it was about 8 a.m. and I was running towards a temple to attend his class. And I saw one of our car drivers. I'm forgetting his name. So he was coming from the temple and going outside, from the temple room. So I asked him, where are you going? Class is about to start. He said, Prabhuji, I don't know English. मुझे तो अंग्रेजी आती नहीं, हम तो बिहार से हैं. I told him, okay, I understand because Prabhuji will speak in English, but still, just sit down. What loss would there be? Just sit down. And whatever Krishna wants will happen. I said, don't just go away because you don't know English. He said, okay, if you're saying so, I'll come and sit. I said, yeah, just sit down. It's what a matter of half an hour, 45 minutes, that's all. So class went on, and Prabhuji, obviously, great scholar, and he gave a wonderful class. And very simple, he was very simple. And it so happened, after the class, when he asked for questions, any question, this driver boy, he was the first one who asked questions. He never asked questions, even in Hindi Bhagavatam class. He was the first one to ask a question in his broken English, and somebody helped him translate his English to Prabhuji. And I was surprised. I said, look at this. So anything can happen. So point is, just try to attend Bhagavatam class as much as possible. That's all. Whether we understand or how much we understand, doesn't matter. Just attend. In February of 1961, on Vyas Puja Day, the anniversary of the appearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhaktivedanta Swami was again in Vrindavan. In honor of their spiritual master, some of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta disciples had gathered, offered flowers before his picture, and held congregation chanting in the temple. But Bhaktivedanta Swami thought that they should be doing much more than that. They should be planning and executing the worldwide preaching mission that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had desired. Instead, they were a gathering of independent individuals, each with his own small idea, each maintaining a small center or living at a center, but with no world programs, not even a program for India. Most of them had no plans or vision beyond their own bodily maintenance. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had asked for a governing body to conduct his movement, but there was no governing body, and practically there was no movement. Some who had fought bitterly were again on speaking terms and feared that any sudden organizational attempts might simply stir up old animosities. At least they could gather together and make an offering to the spiritual master. Amongst his god brothers, Bhaktivedanta Swami was a junior sannyasi. Although a recognized writer and editor, he had no temple or followers. Yet he knew he was trying to follow Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He saw himself helpless and alone against the vast forces of Maya. His god brothers were not an army uniting against Maya's forces, but were more like apathetic monks growing old, holding on to religious principles and rituals, devoid of life. How could they gather to worship their spiritual master without distressfully admitting their failure and in spirit of better the late than never, trying to rectify it? So that was the situation of Gaudiya Math at that time. Since the custom on Vyas Puja Day was for each disciple to write an offering glorifying his spiritual master and to share it within the assembly of God brothers, Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote an offering more like an explosion then a eulogy, and humbly placed it before his god brothers for their response. He wrote, "Even now, my god brothers, you return here on the order of your master, and together we engage in his puja. But simply a festival of flowers and fruits does not constitute worship. The one who serves the message of Guru really worships him. Oh, shame, my dear brothers, aren't you embarrassed? In the manner of businessmen, you increase your disciples. Our master said to preach, let the neophytes remain inside the temples and simply ring the bells. But just take a good look at the terrible situation that has arisen. Everyone has become a sense enjoyer and has given up preaching. From the seas across the earth penetrate the universal shell, come together and preach this Krishna consciousness. Then our master's service will be in proper order. Make your promise today. Give up all your politics and diplomacy. If the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati could join and preach together, there was every chance that they could create a spiritual revolution within the sinful world. That had been the hope of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and Bhaktivedanta Swami expressed that hope in his Vyas Puja offering. When will that day come when a temple will be established in every house, in every corner of the world? When will the High Court judge be a Gaudiya Vaishnava with Tilak beautifully decorating his forehead? When will a Vaishnava winning votes be elected president of the land and preaching be spread everywhere? So he didn't want devotees to run away from politics, but he wanted devotees to purify the politics also. As he read the poem, its truth exploding in the midst of the gathering of aging sannyasis, some approved and some were incensed. The meeting, however, took no new direction. They did not sit down together and plan as he had pleaded. Swami Maharaj's poem was taken as another poetic expression or as an opinion. The God brothers were inclined to let the old wounds heal with the passing of time. To go back over the whole thing again and reconstruct the mission as it had been before, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had been present, and to attempt all those ambitious programs, how was it possible? They were getting old. Some did not want to leave the shelter of Vrindavan. They would worship Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati within the holy dham. If Bhaktivedanta Swami could do something more, let him go ahead and try. So that was the mood. Bhaktivedanta Swami returned to Keshigarh, thoughtful. For many years, he had been unable to take a leading part in the mission because of family commitments. In 1935, in Bombay, his godbrothers had even asked him to be president of the mutt there. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had said that it was not necessary that Abhay Charan join them. He would come in his own way. Now, by the grace of his spiritual master, he was ready to fulfill the meaning of sannyas. The Krishna consciousness world he had described in his poem was not a utopia, presenting merely to incite his godbrothers, a dreamer's talk of the impossible. It was possible, but in any case, he had to write and print Krishna conscious books and preach abroad. It was what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted. If his godbrothers would not do it jointly, then he would do it. So he had already made up his mind. It just didn't know how. And then Krishna is one who's going to guide him. In January of 1961, one of Bhaktivedanta Swami's Delhi acquaintances had shown him an announcement for the Congress for Cultivating Human Spirit, a convention to be held in Tokyo, May 10th through 20th. The theme was World Peace through Cultivating Human Spirit. International participants were invited. As soon as Bhaktivedanta Swami had seen it, he had wanted to go. Although his main interest had always been the US, if Japan presented itself first, why not? And their invitation was in English. If they accepted his reservation, they would pay for his board and lodging at the convention hotel, although he would have to pay for his own travel expenses. Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote to the sponsors, the International Foundation for Cultural Harmony, and proposed a speech. How should one cultivate human spirit? The General Secretary of the Foundation, Mr. Toshihiro Nakano, wrote back to him at Ghat, expressing his high regard both for Indian spiritual culture and for his proposed presentation. Mr. Nakano had also enclosed an official certificate, as he had requested, stating that Bhaktivedanta Swami was a bona fide visitor to the convention, whose expenses in Japan would be paid. They requested, to whom it may concern, that his passport and visa be granted in time for his May 10th arrival in Japan. Bhaktivedanta Swami then conceived a special project for the convention. The 10th canto, 20th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam presents a description of autumn in Vrindavan. And for each seasonal phenomenon, the Bhagavatam presents a parallel teaching from the Vedas. For example, it compares the dark, cloudy evenings of the rainy autumn season to the present age of Kali, when the bright stars of Vedic wisdom, the saints and scriptures, are temporarily obscured by a godless civilization. The chapter contains dozens of such examples, and Bhaktivedanta Swami proposed 50 commentaries to accompany 50 illustrations to be displayed at the convention. He began preparing the commentaries, which he entitled The Light of Bhagavat. He wrote directions from which an artist could design a painting to go with each lesson from the picture. 50 pictures and commentaries, Bhaktivedanta Swami felt, would make an impressive display for visitors at the convention. The convention organizers liked the idea. As for your proposal to get pictures drawing by artists, according to your suggestion, the institution department of the Congress will immediately take people disposal for it under the full consideration of about some specimen idea or picture which will be given to us by you. So I should like to get them as soon as possible. Bhaktivedanta Swami worked quickly to produce a 20,000 word manuscript, 50 lessons for 50 illustrations. And actually that book is very wonderful, and we read the commentaries on in Bhagavatam in that chapter. But that book is simply wonderful. Amazing book Prabhupada created in such a short time. The pictures were to depict the forests, fields, and skies of Vrindavan during the rainy season, and the lessons were sometimes criticism of godless governments, materialists, and false religionists. Sometimes assertion of moral principles and God consciousness, and sometimes depictions of Lord Krishna and his eternal associates in Vrindavan. Everything went smoothly between Bhaktivedanta Swami and the sponsors in Japan. The problem was to raise the travel fare. He approached the likely sources, writing to the central government's Ministry for Scientific Research and Cultural Affairs. He presented his certificate from Mr. Nakano and explained his position as a sannyasi. In late March, the ministry sent him a form to complete and return. Time was getting short. On March 29th, he wrote the Vice President, Dr. Radhakrishnan, with whom he had a speaking acquaintance, as well as a philosophical difference. You know that I am a sannyasi without any relation with bank. Neither I am attached with financial institution. But the Japanese organizers have liked my literatures and they want me to be present there. He pleaded that since the great acharyas of India had formally presented their knowledge for the benefit of the world, the Indian government today should send representatives of the acharyas to deliver the message of Atma, or the human spirit. He also wrote the deputy manager of Scindia Steam Navigation Company in Bombay, reminding him of his 1958 offer to give a 50% concession on a ticket to the United States. After explaining his invitation from Mr. Nakano in Japan, Bhaktivedanta Swami pointed out that the full round-trip fare to Japan would be less than half the fare to the United States. So he was hoping they would sponsor it. Trying all possibilities at once, and with less than a month and a half before the convention, he wrote to another potential donor, Mr. Brajratan S. Mohatta, who had once expressed his willingness to send Bhaktivedanta Swami to South America with an Indian sponsor there, had written expressing interest. At that time, Bhaktivedanta Swami had been unable to get the proper certification from the Indian government. But here, he explained, was a new opportunity to present the message of the Vedic literature to an international gathering of interested people. And passage to Japan was less than to South America. On the same day he wrote to Mr. Mohatta, he also mailed his completed form to the Ministry for Scientific Research. In answer to their question as to why he was asking for a donation and whether he had done so before, he replied, "Before this, I never asked the ministry for any financial assistance as there was no need for it. As sannyasi, I can ask for financial help when there is absolute necessity. Our life is dedicated to render service to the humanity at large for reviving the dormant spiritual consciousness." Meanwhile, his other arrangements proceeded with full cooperation from Japan. He had already sent Mr. Nakano the first 20 illustrative ideas from the light of Bhagavad. Japan is famous for artistic work, he wrote, and India is famous for spiritual culture. We should now combine. He suggested they also print the text and pictures as a book. Mr. Nakano assured Bhaktivedanta Swami that they would be eager to meet him at Haneda Airport. They would be readily recognizable since they would be holding a flag, and if he liked, he could stay in Japan for an entire month and hold local meetings after the scheduled convention. Mr. Nakano also asked a favor of Bhaktivedanta Swami to solidify relations with the mayors of 3 Japanese cities. He asked that Bhaktivedanta Swami send letters to the mayors requesting the full support to the Human Spirit Congress. Bhaktivedanta Swami immediately complied. By now it was April and no money had come. Finally, after a personal interview in which he received a definite no from Dr. Radhakrishnan, Bhaktivedanta Swami turned to Mr. Nakano in disappointment. On April 18th, he wrote, "I am in due receipt of a letter of the 9th instant, and I am grateful to you for all that you have said for me. I am a humble creature and I am just trying to do my bit in this connection because I was so ordered by my spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. While I am feeling too much ecstasy for the reception arrangement you are doing for me, I beg to inform you that my passage expenses, which is near about rupees 3,500, is not yet settled. I submitted one application to the Government of India for help, and the copy of my application is also sent herewith. I also wrote a private letter to Dr. S. Radhakrishnan in this connection, and the reply which I have received is also enclosed herewith. All these are not very encouraging for me. I therefore saw the Vice President today personally, but he says the same thing as he has written in his letter. Although the matter is not yet hopeless altogether, I am disturbed in my mind, thinking, what shall I do in case the government denies to help? I am therefore seeking your good advice in this connection. Dr. S. Radhakrishnan had said to me that you had also invited him to attend your Congress, and he opines that the passage expenses might have been paid by you. The hope and expectation of the Congress is undoubtedly very great, and I wish that I may fully utilize this opportunity for general welfare of the entire human society. I have fully explained my views authoritatively in my statements already sent to you for publication, and the gist idea is expressed in the letter of the mayors, the copy of which is also enclosed. So he could not arrange for the ticket to travel. So replies from prospective donors in India were all negative. On April 20th, he cabled Mr. Nakano. As you have developed a deep love for me, I dare to ask you to send me financial help to take me to Japan. I think you can immediately instruct your embassy in Delhi to do the needful and dispatch me to Japan on your behalf. I'm feeling too much to meet you, and the Congress so that we can build up a solid institute for spiritual cultivation. I shall await your instruction by cable to fix up my program. But Mr. Nakano could not help. And Bhaktivedanta Swami's effort ended in a dream only. So, so it's not that in bhakti everything will go according to what we want. It never happens. Just whatever Krishna wants. So he could not go to Japan this time. But later on, obviously, after he started ISKCON, he went to Japan. I don't know, once or twice, but he did go there. But whenever it has to happen, it happens. Okay, I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri.